How are you doing today? So, life doesn't always go according to plans, right? Either in our personal life, our microcosm, or around us on the world stage. Things don't always go the way we want them to. And sometimes when there are some scenarios that we are really not agreeing with or not happy with, well, we tend to go into fear and into panic, and we imagine all the ways that our lives are going to go in this deep, dark place and all the bad things that can happen to us. And we start giving meaning to the thing that's happening to us that we don't like. And it's okay. I mean, it's totally normal. It's the human response to actually feel these things of fear and panic and, oh my God, what's going to happen? But we also have to allow for something else. We have to allow for curiosity. Curiosity about what is going to emerge from me that I don't know about myself yet. How am I going to evolve? How is maybe life orchestrating something completely different, and there's a purpose for this detour that gets us to something that we judge as more agreeable to us. I heard or I read the other day that as soon as we start worrying, we're entering the world of fantasy. And it's true, right? Because we have no clue what's actually going to unfold and how things are going to happen. And I am not immune to that. For those of you who have watched me for a while, you know the roller coaster of trust and fear and miracles and calamities go through my life, like in all of our lives. And like I said, that's just life. And in the book that I recently published, I actually have a chapter on that. And the chapter is, If All Had Gone According to Plan. And in those stories, I show how some things that we really don't want to happen turn out to be a blessing. And we have to keep that in mind. And the reason that today I feel like talking about this is because, as some of you know, I've been in a little bit of turmoil lately about finding a place to live and blah, 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 and all this story of me. And by the way, I have found a place. And when you read this, is going to be the day I'm moving, this Sunday. So that's taken care of. I'm okay. And as I shared some of those stories, somebody in the comments on YouTube said, "Hey, Annie, I just listened to one of your videos from last year, and I think maybe you could benefit from listening to it yourself." And I did. And it was like, oh, Annie, you think you're supposed to control everything and figure out everything, but it's not how life goes, and you could just take a breath and trust and just surrender a little bit more in the unknown that you're going through right now. So what I'm going to do next is I've decided to share this video right after this in a few seconds, because that video was so powerful. And it applies to me now and to everybody who feels like their lives are falling apart. So here we go. I will see you next week after I moved with a new background. Bye-bye. Have a great week. Hey everybody, how are you today? Have you ever been, which I'm sure you have, in a place where your future is really uncertain, or things have just turned your life upside down and you kind of feel like things are a mess and it's pretty scary? As some of you know, I'm going through some of this. I'm on day 60 of my 100-day experiment, which started when my husband and I separated. And I have a lot of uncertainty, including where to live and how to make money and all these kinds of goodies. I'm beginning to feel kind of that pressure building up. And if I'm not careful, these fears could kind of overtake me, because I'm kind of afraid of what's going to happen. I was talking to my mom a couple of days ago, and she was going through a lot of anxiety too. And I kind of reminded us that we know of instances in our lives when things seem to be going not well and we don't like what the future may be. And in the end, it kind of turns out well. So I'm going to share 3 here with you. About 10 years ago, I was living in Vancouver and trying to build a business. It sounds very familiar. Trying to build a business, being sick, running out of money. The big threat while I was trying to figure things out was that voice coming down and saying, if you don't figure it out, you're going to have to move back in with your mother. And the real feeling behind this is you're going to be a failure, right? So that was the real fear. But the threat was you're going to have to move back home. You're going to have to go live in her apartment. And this actually happened. By the time that I did move back in with my mother, I had come to a great place of peace and acceptance and actually love. And I moved in with her with love for her, even love for life and my situation, because I showed up with an open heart. So that was part 1. But the really interesting part was that after moving back in with my mother, I actually met my husband within 2 months. And if I hadn't been there, that wouldn't have happened. Now, I know we're separating right now, but it was still an extraordinary time, and we had extraordinary things and a lot of joy and love that happened during our time together. Another example, I know a woman, her father died, and she had been taking care of her elderly mother, a serious curmudgeon, okay, that. She was a grumpy old woman that really made her life actually quite difficult, painful, created rift in the family. And the woman I know actually started drinking, and it was really destructive. But she saw no out because she also has a golden heart. And for her, it was her responsibility and duty, I guess. And she felt that she wanted to take care of her mother and didn't see her way out of there. Well, a little while ago, she fell and broke her arm. And for a moment, I can imagine, it must have been, oh my God, like on top of everything else, now I break my arm and I have to continue with life with a new challenge added to it. But what actually came of this is that the services that were checking in on her mom sometimes, because she required so much care, they told my friend that she could no longer take care of her mother in the state she was in, that she needed to take care of herself, and that her mother was going to be placed in an old person's home and she would be taken care of. So it's always this idea of things we don't want to have happen in our life that have a blessing in them that we don't see when things are happening. Hey, if you think other people could benefit from the messages in my videos, the best way for them to get to see it is for you to subscribe, give me a like, write a comment, or even share. Thanks. I have another amazing example of this. My niece, a year ago, her and her boyfriend, they're in their 20s, they moved to a place on the St. Lawrence River into a community that they were really drawn to. They're very artistic and kind people. And they had just settled in an apartment, and I think they had been there for 10 days, and a fire started and they lost everything. She's a graphic designer. He works with traditional wood tools and builds furniture, and everything burnt down. They're young. They didn't have any insurance. The computers were in there. They came out with, the keys. They moved the car, had the wherewithal of moving the car to save it from the fire. And that's all they had with them. Big tragedy. What happened after that is that the community rallied around them, and they got offered a place to live for free for a year with a view of the St. Lawrence River and sunsets. And people in the community started helping them, donating. Then they got hired, her as a graphic designer, him to build furniture. And a year later, they are the most fulfilled and happy and surrounded and part of a community. It's better than what they had dreamed of. My niece was telling my mother a few days ago, we are known from everybody. People call me by name everywhere I go. We have work lined up for months, and life is just absolutely glorious. So there are like 3 lessons I draw from this that I want to share. One is, let's try to stop judging the events that we don't like that are happening in our lives, because we do not know where they will lead. In a way, we can look at it like, wow, this is so messed up that something's going to come out of it, and I can't wait to see the strength that I'm going to find in me and the ways that life will surprise me. It's also going to lower suffering, right? A lot of our suffering is because we worry and we resist what is. Number 2, it kind of goes along with it, but we have to practice trust. If we trust that life will take care of us in some way to make us move forward in our growth and our evolution, trusting also relieves pressure, because when we trust, then it's not like up to us to figure out everything. And that brings a lot of relief. It's also less stressful, which is going to allow us to think more clearly. And from clearer thinking, we might think of solutions that we wouldn't have thought otherwise. So all around, if we choose and practice trusting, not all the time, we're human, it's impossible, unless you're a master. But if we practice it consciously, then we open up a little bit to possibilities. And 3 is kind of to remember that the unknown, that place of uncertainty, is actually a space where the greatest opportunities can occur. We can recognize that place of uncertainty and unknown not only from maybe the panic that is rising through us, but it's also the place where we say, I don't know what to do. Kyle Cease has a great phrase that is, I don't know what to do, and I love it. Interesting. The greatest surprises come from this place of unknown. If we embrace the unknown and make space, then it's life, it's the all that isness, it's God that can come and use this space to create things that we couldn't even have imagined with our minds. Let's not jump into solutions mode right away, because as soon as we go into solutions mode, we are closing up the space, and God doesn't have much space to go in, because then we're filling that space with things to do. And if we fill up that space, then there is no more room for God to come in and orchestrate things that we couldn't have orchestrated ourselves. So, let's take a few deep breaths. Stop judging. Have some faith. Trust. Remember that out of crazy situation, great things happen. We've seen it in our lives. That's my thinking for today. Bye. Oh, and I forgot to say, I almost always forget something that I want to say about my book. I have 2 book signings coming up at Barnes & Noble in Flagstaff, Arizona. Another one coming up on November 24th in Scottsdale, Arizona. And on December 5th, I have a Meet the Author talk at the Cottonwood Public Library. So I've got these 3 things coming up, and I'm really looking forward to settling into my new place and focusing on the VIP days and retreats. And I'm actually also thinking that I'm going to include some calls, some sessions with me as well. So be patient. I know some of you mentioned that you were interested. It's coming soon. I just need to take a breath and let things happen. It's coming. Bye.